I want to now bring in former Deputy National Security Advisor for President Trump in his first term, Victoria Coates. Victoria, good morning to you. I was just talking to Kelly there right off the top about the president kind of denying his criticism of Zelenskyy. He was asked yesterday, do you still think he's a dictator? And he said, did I say that? I mean, why do you think he's denying it now? Is it just because the two are meeting today?
Well, good morning, Markie. Good to be with you. I think this is pretty typical sort of negotiating tactics out of President Trump. And actually, President Zelenskyy sort of started this with the Russian disinformation comment he made about President Trump. President Trump hit back. There was kind of a cooling off period. There were negotiations going on during that time for the mineral deal that I'm sure we'll talk about. But, this week has been really a great week for President Trump in terms of the transatlantic relationship with Europe. He had, the meeting with President Macron, the meeting with Prime Minister Starmer that you just described, President Zelenskyy coming in today. So I think we're making really material progress toward a resolution to the Ukraine war, but most importantly, a resolution that is favorable to both Ukraine and the United States.
You brought up the rare earth minerals, and I do want to touch on that because Ukraine, of course, wants guarantees of peace. They want security in any sort of deal with the United States in exchange for rare earth minerals. So, Victoria, what would that mean when President Trump says Europe will have to step up for that kind of security?
Well, I mean, the issue here is this war is in Europe, and the European economy and the American economies are roughly equivalent. So the notion that the United States is the one that should bear the brunt of the burden for security in Ukraine, it just makes no sense. We have obligations in the Middle East and in Asia that Europe does not have. So they have to take care of their own security. And both President Macron and Prime Minister Starmer said a lot of very positive things about that. Now, the problem with these so-called, security guarantees is Ukraine was issued these before on a piece of paper called the Bucharest Memorandum in the 1990s. And it theoretically was going to guarantee their security from Russia, the United States, and the United Kingdom. Well, that wound up not being binding. It didn't happen. So I don't think what is negotiated, what's written on a piece of paper, is what matters here. What matters is a commitment from the United States, and in this case, in the minerals deal, to have U.S. private companies and interests on the ground in Ukraine. That is what would deter Putin. He's not going to attack that lightly. And so President Trump said that yesterday in one of his comments that, if we're there, if our companies are there, he's not going to go back in. And I think that is an actual deterrent.
I want to get your response also to the Director of Communications for the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America, Andrei Dobryansky, who told NewsNation this. Take a listen.
We know Russia is struggling. We know that they have slowed down so much from the last couple of months till today. Their economy is in ruins. All that President Trump needs to do is to increase the shipments to Ukraine as well as increase the pressure on Russia. And he could actually be the most influential president in history by finally seeing an end to the Russian Empire.
Yeah, so, Victoria, is Russia up against a wall now that they need an agreement, or does Putin have too much of an advantage in these talks, as critics of President Trump have said?
No, I mean, I think it's sort of somewhere in the middle there. I mean, this has been an extremely long and painful war for both sides, and Russia has lost hundreds of thousands of troops. It's something President Trump talks about frequently. They do have a very powerful backer in China, which has been essentially bankrolling this. We have Chinese state-owned entities actually in eastern Ukraine starting to do some reconstruction. I think that's something that concerns President Trump deeply. And the question then becomes, how much is China willing to lay out to continue to support Russia to continue this war? So I think there are a lot of major players who have a vested interest in getting this wrapped up. And hopefully President Trump can take advantage of that and get to, as I said, a deal that is advantageous for both Ukraine and the United States. It's critical to say he is not handing Ukraine to Russia under any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, we'll see what today's meeting between Zelenskyy and Trump has in store and what comes of it. Victoria Coates, thank you so much, ma'am, as always.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.